You have 10 minutes to clear your desk. The sentence landed flat, like it had been practiced until all feeling wore off. No warning, no preamble. Just my mother-in-law's voice carrying across the boardroom table while everyone else stared at their notepads as if eye contact could get them indicted. The chair legs scraped when I pushed back. Not mine, hers. She stood without looking at me, already reaching for the folder at her elbow. Already moving on. That was the part that stung. The decision had passed through the room before I had. My name is Evelyn Harper Knox. I am 42 years old. The thought cut through me while I watched the HR director's fingers lock together so tight, her knuckles went pale. I had signed final attestations for years. I had been the one called when things went sideways, and now I was being erased in real time. Someone inhaled sharply at the end of the table. The sound bounced, small and panicked. The HR director leaned forward, palms pressed flat, voice breaking the stillness. If she leaves without signing, we're exposed. Silence answered her. Not denial, not confusion. Silence the kind that means everyone heard the same thing and understood it the same way. I looked down at the pen in front of me. My pen. The one they always slid my way at the end. I didn't pick it up. I set it aside instead, slow enough for the movement to register. Thank you. The word felt strange in my mouth. It worked anyway? I stood. The room shifted. Chairs creaked. Papers stopped rustling. I walked toward the door without rushing, aware of every step. Aware of the access badge still warm against my collarbone. Behind me, a chair scraped back. Then another. Then a third. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. The sound multiplied, staggered but deliberate, until it filled the space like something breaking loose. The elevator dinged somewhere down the hall. I reached the door. 21 footsteps followed. The HR director's voice dropped to a whisper that didn't belong in a room this big. Call the lawyer now. This story is a work created by the writing team at Her Fear. I stepped into the hallway, the door closing behind us with a soft final click. Whatever they needed from me, whatever paper they thought would keep them safe, they had just decided they couldn't force it anymore, so why were they so desperate for me to sign? The badge reader blinked red before I even reached my desk. I tried again, slower this time, thumb steady, same result. No chirp, no green light. The lock stayed firm, like it had never known me. Already I murmured, more to the door than anyone else. Footsteps approached from the corner. Lena from compliance slowed when she saw me standing there empty-handed. Box still tucked under my arm. Her eyes flicked to the reader. Then to my face. They cut you off before the meeting ended, she said quietly. That's not standard. No. I answered, and felt the words settle heavier than it should have. It isn't. She glanced down the hall, then leaned closer. Check your personal archive. If it's still there. The warning landed first. The explanation followed. My laptop came alive on the kitchen table at home, but only because it wasn't on their network anymore. The folder Lena had helped me set up months ago sat exactly where I'd left it. I opened the most recent compliance packet and scrolled until my stomach tightened. My name was already there. Not typed in, not suggested. Embedded. A digital signature block stamped with my credentials, pre-attached to an addendum I had never seen. The approval date was blank. Waiting. Patient. My phone buzzed. A single line preview from an internal thread forwarded without a name attached. Once Harper signs, liability transfers cleanly. I didn't open the rest. I didn't need to. Another message followed. This one from Marcus in operations. No greeting. No emoji. Just 4 words. Did you sign anything? I typed back with my thumbs hovering longer than necessary. No. The reply came fast. Good. I stared at the document again, at the neat way responsibility had been arranged around me and felt the unease sharpen into something colder. They hadn't fired me because I was finished. They'd fired me because I was still useful, just not in the way I'd agreed to be. If my name was already sitting inside their paperwork, waiting for one final click, what exactly had they planned to hand me the pen for? The cursor blinked at the bottom of the file. I closed it without saving. then pulled the archive onto an external drive and watched the progress bar crawl forward. Another buzz. This time from an unfamiliar number. Please confirm you received the addendum. I didn't respond. I shut the laptop, slid the drive into my pocket, and listened to the phone vibrate again on the table. Insistent. Like someone knocking harder when they realize the door might not open. The deck hit my inbox without a subject line. I opened it because habit still had teeth. The title slide carried a new name where mine used to sit. Bold and centered. The kind of font choice meant to project control. The slides themselves were familiar. Too familiar. My flow, my phrasing. Even the footnotes landed where I always put them. A message popped up beneath the file. Quick review before the afternoon run-through, I didn't answer. I watched the recording instead. She stood at the front of the room with a remote in her hand and a practiced half smile on her face. Slides advanced. Charts appeared. She spoke cleanly, confidently, never once touching the systems behind them. No drill downs, no live checks. When a question came in from the far end, her eyes flicked to the notes panel, then back up. We'll follow up offline. Offline meant me before. Now it meant delay. My phone buzzed. Logs are locked. Marcus wrote, selective. Weird. Which ones? My reply went out before I thought about it. Anything after your final approvals. I pulled the archive back up and traced the timestamps. Everything before my last sign-off sat intact. Everything after was thin, curated, polished like evidence laid out for a jury that hadn't arrived yet. A new notification slid across the screen. This one from IT governance. Operational ownership updated effective immediately. Effective after approvals. After signatures. After me. Why fire someone you still need for the story? Another message followed. Shorter this time. They're asking who controlled the pipeline. I leaned back and felt the fear settle into something sharper. They weren't scrambling to replace me. They were building a timeline that ended where I began. Neat and blame-ready, with just enough distance to call it coincidence. My phone rang. I let it go to voicemail. The screen lit up again. Same number as before. Please confirm availability for follow-up questions. I shut the laptop and stood. If they needed me positioned in the past, I wasn't going to stay put in the present. I grabbed my keys, the drive still warm in my pocket, and headed for the door while the calls kept coming. Closer together now, like someone realizing the window they'd counted on was closing. The kitchen light was already on when I walked in. He stood at the counter, sleeves rolled, phone face down like it might betray him if it vibrated. You knew, I said, dropping my keys hard enough to make the sound stick. You knew before today. His jaw tightened. Not denial, not surprise, just calculation. It wasn't supposed to land like this. That's not an answer. A pause. He reached for a glass, stopped halfway, then set it back untouched. I signed something weeks ago. The word hung there. Signed. It matched too cleanly with everything else. What kind of something? His shoulders sagged. Like the question weighed more than the truth. An NDA, narrow, temporary. Temporary for who? He didn't look up. They said it was standard. They always say that. Another pause. Longer this time. He pulled his phone closer and slid it across the counter. A banking app sat open. Accounts I recognized. Balances that had shifted quietly. Why is my name gone from that one? I asked, pointing. Legal suggested it. He said, just in case. In case of what? Silence again. The heavy kind. The kind that answers anyway. I opened the document Marcus had sent earlier and scrolled until the line burned through the screen. Spousal knowledge mitigates intent. I felt it then. Sharp and specific. Not anger. Recognition. When did my marriage stop being personal? They didn't just plan around me. I said, they planned through us. He finally met my eyes. They said it would protect everyone. Everyone but me. His mouth opened, then closed. The movement was small. Rehearsed too late. A notification chimed from his phone. An email preview flashed and vanished. But not before I caught the sender. Legal. Subject line clipped. Urgent. They're moving fast. He said, voice low, you need to be careful. I picked up the phone and pushed it back toward him. They already were. I turned for the hallway, the weight of the drive in my pocket grounding me. Behind me, the light clicked off. Ahead, my phone buzzed again, this time from someone who hadn't been looped in early enough. We didn't plan to meet together. It just happened that way. Marcus showed up first, coat still on, eyes already scanning the room like he expected someone to walk in behind him. Lena followed, then two more, then more after that. Phone stayed face down. No one ordered anything. We took seats without asking. Marcus broke it by sliding a printout across the table. They wanted this signed by end of day. The page stopped in front of me, a confirmation statement. Narrow language, clean margins. The kind that pretends to be harmless. Lena pushed her own copy next to it. Same wording, different name at the bottom. They told me it was routine. She said, her foot tapped once, then stilled. When I asked for the full packet, they said it wasn't necessary. A third sheet joined the pile, then a fourth, each one a piece, each one incomplete. They came to me after the approvals, Marcus added. Asked who controlled the pipeline before the changes. Another voice, quieter. They asked me to confirm the logs reflected normal operations. Someone else leaned in. They told me not to worry about context. I looked at the stack growing between us and felt the shape of it click into place. They hadn't wanted a single signature. They wanted a chorus. How many people does it take to bury the truth? Lena's jaw tightened. When the meeting ended and you stood up, I realized something. What? I asked. If we stayed, she said, we'd all be signing alone, one by one. Marcus nodded. The walkout stopped that. A phone vibrated against the tabletop. No one claimed it. The screen lit up with a preview from legal. The same sender as before, the same tone. Please confirm receipt and intent to comply. I pushed the stack back toward the center. None of you signed. No, Marcus said. And they're not happy about it. Another vibration, this time on my phone. A new number. Short message. We need to speak. Immediately. I stood. The room shifted with me. Chairs scraping in a familiar echo. 21 fragments sat on the table, suddenly heavy with their own gravity, and somewhere behind the urgency of that message, I felt the pressure change as the people who needed silence realized they were running out of time. The line clicked, then a breath on the other end. Controlled. Waiting. I don't have your file yet, the voice said, so listen carefully. I didn't sit. My hand stayed on the back of the chair like I might need it to keep from moving. I'm listening. Anything you say from this point forward can lock you into a timeline you don't control. A pause. If you're wrong, you go to prison. The word landed without drama. Prison. No emphasis. No scare tactics. Just a fact placed between us. I don't have everything. I said, I have fragments. That's usually how this starts. Keys tapped somewhere far away. The sound stopped. If you activate whistleblower protection now, the clock starts. Subpoenas follow. Phones light up. People panic. They're already panicking. Good. Another pause. Longer. Bad. 2. My phone buzzed against the table. A preview slid across the screen and vanished. Corporate communications. Draft statement. My name in the subject line. They're preparing a release. I said, they're going to blame me. Silence again. This one sharper. Read it to me. I did. Each line tighter than the last. Careful language. Passive verbs. Responsibility drifting toward a single point. What do you do when silence is fatal? Then you don't stay silent. The voice said, but you don't get to change your mind later. I know, say it. I'm activating. A breath on the line, then movement. All right, from this moment on, do not sign anything. Do not explain yourself. Do not agree to a meeting without me. Another buzz. This time a text from a blocked number. 1 sentence. We can fix this if you cooperate. I won't, I said, and felt the commitment settle into place like a lock turning. Good, the voice replied. I'm filing now. The call ended. My phone stayed quiet for half a second, then erupted emails stacking, numbers I didn't recognize pushing through. Somewhere. A process had been triggered that couldn't be paused or softened. I slipped the drive onto the table, aligned the fragments beside it, and watched the screen fill with notifications while the space to maneuver narrowed. Fast! The statement went live before noon. I didn't need the link. My phone lit up with the same line copied and pasted into half a dozen threads. Leadership changes effective immediately. A name I recognized followed her daughter's. Not mine. Not yet. A call pushed through. I let it ring twice. They're blaming her. Marcus breathed when the line connected. No greeting, no buffer. Internal memo says she approved the exception. Approved what? The part that never went to review. I closed my eyes long enough to feel the weight of it. Family first until family becomes expendable. Another message chimed in. This one from legal. Clipped and formal. Please direct all inquiries to counsel. Do not engage. A beat later, a second line appeared beneath it. Forwarded from corporate communications. Concerns have been raised regarding Evelyn Knox's emotional stability during recent operational transitions. The word sat there. Deliberate. Stability. The kind you question when you want distance without facts. My phone vibrated again. This time it was her. No name, just the number I'd known by heart. They needed insulation. She said, voice flat, I wouldn't give them you. You gave them her. A breath, not shaky, controlled. She'll recover. What kind of leader sacrifices her own family? I'm cutting ties. She continued, publicly, effective immediately. So you can say this was personal. I answered, not structural. Silence. Then, you taught me that. The call ended. Another notification arrived. This one marked urgent. Mandatory evaluation scheduled. No time. No location. Just an order wrapped in concern. Lena texted a screenshot from inside. The daughter's access revoked. Her calendar wiped. A resignation email drafted and queued. Sender masked. They're moving the blame down the bloodline. She wrote, and up the ladder. I set the phone down and opened the secure folder the attorney had flagged. A new entry blinked into place, interview requests populating. Names stacking fast. The board had chosen its shield. The shield was cracking. And with every move they made to survive, the space for them to maneuver shrank, pulling all of us closer to the edge. The first subpoena landed like a knock that didn't wait for permission. Confirm receipt. The message read, no greeting, no softness. I forwarded it to the attorney. 3 dots appeared, vanished, then returned with a single line. Good. More coming. They did. One after another. Logs, emails, access records. The requests weren't broad anymore, they were precise. Cut to dates and minutes, to names that had never been meant to share a sentence. Marcus called while I was pulling the drive from my pocket. They're asking for the walkout list. Send it. They want statements. Send those too. A beat. They're calling it coordinated. They should. Another ping. This one from HR tone stripped bare. Please advise where to route investigator inquiries. Not to me, I replied, and felt the shift as it happened. They were no longer managing. They were reacting. The attorney came back on the line. Your termination is flagged. For what? Obstruction, he said. Public removal immediately before a compelled signature. That's a problem. I closed my eyes and saw the room again, the table. The pen. The 10 minutes carved into air like a dare. HR's hands had been shaking for a reason. Interview requests are going out. He continued. All 21? Good. They're aligning timestamps now. Your approvals end where the edits begin. Who really pulled the trigger that day? My phone lit up with an internal chain that hadn't found the right audience fast enough. Please confirm who authorized access revocation prior to termination. Replies stacked beneath it. Cautious, careful, each one stepping back from the edge. Lena texted a photo of a calendar entry with a red banner across it. Meeting canceled by compliance. Underneath, a new block appeared. Federal interview. Another call pushed through. Unfamiliar number. I let it go. The voicemail followed anyway. We need to clarify some misunderstandings. There was nothing left to clarify. The fragments had found each other. The noise had a shape now, and it was moving on its own. I slid the drive across the table to the attorney when he arrived, watched him secure it without comment, and felt the room tighten as the process took over fast, formal, and no longer interested in saving anyone who'd mistaken control for cover. The call came through clean. No static, no small talk. They're asking her to step down. The attorney said, paper shifted on his end. Effective immediately. Voluntary. A pause. Forced. The board needs distance. Another voice joined the line. Sharper. Practiced. Leadership privileges revoked pending federal review. I didn't respond. I listened for what they weren't saying. They're notifying investors within the hour. The attorney added, there will be a statement, and my name. Cleared. The word landed heavier than I expected. A second call cut in. My husband's number. I let it ring once. Then answered, they want to talk, he said. They think I can help explain you signed. I cut in. They'll explain to you. Silence stretched. Then, quieter. They're asking about the accounts. They should. Another interruption. Marcus again. Breathless. We're out. All of us. Compliance confirmed it in writing. Protected, I said. Yeah, a laugh. Short and stunned. Protected. A notification chimed. Corporate email. Subject line stripped of polish. Leadership transition announcement. No names at the top. Just the decision. What does justice cost when you survive it? The attorney cleared his throat. The successors barred from management roles. Indefinitely. And the walkout statements accepted. No findings. A knock at the door. 2 investigators stood in the hall. Badges already visible. Posture neutral. One held a tablet angled toward me. Ms. Ynog, he said. Voice even. We'd like to ask a few final questions. I nodded and stepped aside. Behind them, my phone buzzed again, another message from inside. Another attempt to soften edges that had already cut. When the door closed. The noise outside thinned to a manageable hum. The answers were finished. The consequences were not. I sat across from the tablet, hands steady, and watched the process move forward without me needing to push it anymore. The lease was thin. The kind you read twice because no one rushed you to sign it. I slid it back across the table and watched Marcus grin like he was trying not to. Lena didn't smile at all. She just nodded once. Already opening her laptop. Already working. No board, Marcus said. No surprises, no shortcuts, I added. That too. We didn't shake on it. We didn't need to. We'd all learned what rushed agreements cost. A few weeks later, my phone buzzed with a familiar name. I let it ring out. The silence didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt chosen. The firm was small by design. Compliance consulting, clean work, clear lines. I brought back some of the 21. Not all of them. Not because of loyalty, because of fit. Everyone else landed where they wanted. And that mattered more. One afternoon, as we were closing out our first client review, Lena paused at the door. You know, she said, they keep asking how you stayed calm in that room. I stacked the folders instead of answering right away. I wasn't calm. I said, I was done. She nodded. That was enough. Here's what I learned. And it didn't come from a book or a courtroom. If someone needs you to sign in a hurry, it's usually because they don't want you to read. Walking away is not quitting when staying would mean lying. Boundaries don't protect you later. They protect you the moment you hold them. They gave me 10 minutes to disappear. I used them to make sure I never would. If you stayed with me through this, thank you. I know stories like this hit close for a lot of people. If you've ever been put in a corner and told to choose fast, I'd like to hear how you handled it. Share your thoughts below. And if you want more stories like this, you're welcome to stick around.